Hey fellas, before we get in the video, I just want to quickly say that I'm not advocating for or encouraging the doxing, targeting, harassment, or bullying of any individuals that may mention or feature in this video, or this is an opinion piece of my particular commentary on the subject matter, however controversial as it may be. So, without I quickly say it, let's go ahead and start the show. Alrighty. First and foremost, I'd just like to say thank you to my loving, caring, supporting friends and family for being by my side every step of the way ever since this all began, because I'm be real with y'all, I'm be honest with y'all, wasn't for you guys, I probably would have committed suicide by now. I'd also like to extend a big thank you to my supporters who have been stuck by my side every step of the way. I'm making this video right now to express that I'm taking full responsibility and accountability for my actions that took place on April 21st, 2021.
Well, I was actually coming out here to pick up a cupcake and then go back home. There was, nothing that was going to be sexual involved, because I'm not like that, well, obviously the text messages and stuff like that, you know what I mean? But yeah, that was all that was. Bruh.
I'm not at liberty right now to discuss what actually happened on April 21st, 2021, but
how many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
I love the young people.
I take full accountability and responsibility for it. You already know what happened. I don't need to get into those goddamn particulars. It's all YouTube shit. I will now proceed to insult your collective intelligence for the next 5 minutes as I talk about unrelated, unimportant shit. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Japan back next. LCS, anything else? EDP445. You know, it wasn't until recently I actually knew that EDP stood for Eating That Pussy, because I actually caught a glimpse of the platinum plaque that EDP445 had received years ago, when he actually, broke that milestone of, having enough subscribers to actually merit that, where YouTube will actually grant you that sort of honorific. I actually didn't know a whole lot about EDP445 back in the day. I knew that he was from Philly, and that he was a big Eagles fan, but at the same time, other than talking about sports and maybe, making memes and stuff like that, I had no idea who he was until that fateful day 2 years ago when he decided that he was just going to step outside and, pick up a cupcake and head on home.
Well, I was actually coming out here to pick up a cupcake and then go back home.
Actually, that's not what happened, okay? I don't know if you all remember, but it was Chet Goldstein and Alex Rosen that actually, basically lured EDP445 out of his lair. And EDP comes out expecting to meet a 13-year-old girl, and what does he find but two people that are basically recording him the entire time? And, EDP actually tried fist bumping one of them, and it's just I don't fucking fist bump sick fucks like you. And EDP acted like, deer stuck in headlights. He had no idea what was going on, wearing that fucking gray-ass sweatshirt and, pants and, the boomer-style sunglasses. He was caught completely off guard, pants down and shit like that. Not literally, because if that was the case, he probably would have wound up in jail, but for whatever reason, Chet Goldstein and Alex Rosen couldn't quite corroborate, they couldn't, accumulate enough material to get the police involved, because police, they basically let this one slide. EDP actually got a little bit of a free pass that day, and he basically got the skirt on by, He wasn't prosecuted, he wasn't arrested, he wasn't, investigated or nothing like that. The investigation went nowhere, because I guess Chet Goldstein and Alex Rosen didn't really work with law enforcement at the time, so that pretty much went nowhere. But it did do one thing, okay? EDP445's reputation from that point onwards was completely destroyed. And the worst thing about it is, that wasn't even the first time that he'd been caught doing that sort of thing, EDP was, basically synonymous with predator at that point, or pedophile. And, for 2 years, a summation of 2 years, from then to now, his name was dragged through the dirt. And just about everybody out there already knew who he was. And I got a really quick reminder through Hypnotist Sappho, who basically referenced, no, I didn't go out there and pick up a cupcake like EDP.
I didn't try to get a cupcake like EDP.
It's yes, you fucking did, but that's besides the point. EDP445 was like somebody that had completely lost all relevance, okay? They went through this weird downward spiral. Crazy enough, I never covered him on the channel because I figured what was the fucking point, you know? He wasn't exactly, like, you know, reeking of relevance at that point in time when I actually caught wind of, like, his seditious activities. But, you know, watching his demise, basically, you know, he became broke, okay? Like, YouTube was his life. That was his job. And obviously, when he was caught doing the dirty, or trying to do the dirty with, like, a minor out there, he completely got knocked out. Basically, everybody left him. He kept getting banned from shit like TikTok, YouTube, and various other places. So, anything that he did was sort of doomed to fail. He still, you know, miraculously has his own personal website up where you can buy shirts from him if you so want. He actually had to sell his platinum plaque, you know, because he had to make rent and shit like that. You know, he's not exactly swimming in cash right now, and he's got a litany of expenses to account for, so it's not like he's living on Easy Street now. But at the same time, I'm having a hard time giving a fuck about all that, because this is a guy who routinely has reached out to minors, trying to get into contact with them, trying to, like, get in with them, slides in their DMs, and tries to seduce them. And he hasn't exactly taken care of himself. Like, he's like a big bowling ball, like, as far as his, like, body shape goes. So, what 13-year-old kid is going to go for that? I don't know. But EDP certainly likes the kids, you know? He'll go above and beyond the Call of Duty to try to get in contact with those kids. Anyway, obviously, his decline has been well documented, and he's pretty much broke. But more recently, some very stark revelations came out, okay? And it was like several days ago that I picked up on this story. Kayla Hoskins, right? They're like a 16-year-old kid that comes out and basically corroborates the fact that they were one of EDP445's victims. Now, here's the thing. They weren't, like, you know, a victim from back in the day. This wasn't like, you know, 2021, 2022. This is very recent, like a month ago recent, okay? And it's sort of built to a head. We're not quite there yet, but Kayla Hoskins basically makes a video coming out, and Kayla Hoskins themselves, they're obviously a 16-year-old kid. They look like an Asian girl. You know, their lips are huge, though. And I don't know if it's the makeup doing that, but they look Asian to me. Anyway, they came out and basically stated that for whatever reason, EDP445 reached out to her and basically got into contact with her. And, you know, slid into her DMs. They got to talking, and in spite of the fact that Kayla Hoskins told him under ambiguous terms that she was 15, or I should say, she was 15 at the time. You know, fucking EDP445, he keeps going, okay? He's, like, chatting this girl up. He's chatting her up, just basically being like, yo, I want in with you, girl. And, you know, for whatever reason, Kayla just kept talking to him. I don't know if it was like she had nothing better, like, to do, nothing else going on, had nothing better to do, but they got to talking, and basically EDP445 just spilled the beans about just about everything to this girl, right? And she went into the ins and outs of their conversations, and basically, over time, right? Because she's 15 years of age when EDP actually reaches out to her. And, like, she's very specific in, like, clarifying that, yes, EDP reached out to her, okay? She didn't reach out to EDP. EDP reached out to her. And he was always trying to, like, butter her up, basically saying, your content's great, I love your content. But here's the problem. He'd always get kind of sexual when he would, like, you know, drop a comment on one of her videos or whatever. Like, you know, her attempts at rapping and things like that. But anyway, like, I don't know. The conversation obviously gets weird because EDP, he's like 34 years of age, like maybe 35 now. He's sufficiently an adult. You know, it would already look bad enough if he was like 24, 25. But he is 30, 34, 35, is like mid-30s going on 40. So obviously this is going to be the least bit weird, right? And, you know, at first, like, the conversations are kind of getting weird, but for whatever reason, Kayla keeps talking to him. And it goes above and beyond where, like, she becomes the object of EDP's like desires. It's almost like the object of like obsession. You ever play like Dead by Daylight? You ever get chased by the killer and you're like the object of their obsession? Okay, it's kind of like that, except instead of a killer, it's a fucking like pedophile who's way over the hill. Okay, he's pretty much donezo as far as like making good content anymore. But like he had all these weird fantasies sort of build up. Like he would basically, you know, express a lot of fantasies to her. Like he wanted to get in bed with her, he wanted to marry her when she turned 18, and he wanted to like, you know, start a family with her. And the worst thing about that is like when they got married, he's like saying, you know what, when you turn 18, how about you start an OnlyFans sort of like mooch off of that so we can fix this, you know, financial problem that we seem to be having here in this made up fictional universe where I somehow wind up in bed with you, we get married at 18, start a family, and everything's good to go. And needless to say, Kayla was not interested, alright? And EDP just kind of shared a lot of nudes of himself with her, like, you know, unsolicited, basically. Because Kayla had some less than flattering things to say about EDP's body. I mean, there ain't a whole lot left to the imagination. This is a big dude, okay? This is like Fat Albert, alright? But the difference is, Fat Albert was like, you know, a venerated childhood star. EDP445 is just a fucking creep. So that wasn't going to go anywhere. But she, like, what I remember most from watching the video, because she, like, talked about the whole thing, right? She said that his fucking dick looks like a pickle.
I'm Pickle Rick!
Like, she basically compared it to a dick, like a pickle. And, like, she stuck her tongue out and said, it's this big. So, woo, okay. Like, already the kinds of clothes and, like, the look that EDP had was, like, already not leaving a whole lot to the imagination. But if you wanted confirmation, this girl's got it, okay? She'll be upfront and personal with you about all this. I don't know if you recall, but EDP's kind of lived a hard life up to this point. Like, he became homeless briefly and had to live out of his car for, like, a period of 3 weeks. And when he got to his new place, he found a fucking mattress on the streets and dragged that back with him to live on, alright? And here's the kicker, okay? Kayla basically points this out. Do you remember the apology video? And to call it an apology video is such an insult, right? Because there wasn't any goddamn apology in that video. It was the same thing with Colleen Ballinger. I already referenced it in the Colleen Ballinger video, but I'll reference it again here. There was no, I'm sorry, I'd like to apologize. The closest that we get is that fucking EDP says, I just like to take responsibility for my actions, full accountability. He doesn't specify which actions he's taking accountability for, but he says that he'd like to take responsibility and accountability for everything that happened April 21st, 2021. And if you recall, that was the date that all of this sort of like broke the light of day, that EDP was a fucking confirmed pedophile and that he was a sick fuck that needed to be avoided at all costs. Alright? And like, at first, when I first heard his apology video, I thought it was coming from the heart, right? It wasn't a real apology video, but it sounded sincere. It sounded good, right? He's like trying to take full responsibility, accountability for his actions. And I was about to make a video about that. I didn't. I was about to just basically say, you know, it takes a big walrus to admit when they're wrong. Unfortunately, Kayla basically spills the beans and says that whole thing, like that whole apology video, was complete and utter horseshit. But, you know, I didn't have to, like, tell you all that. You probably picked up on that anyway, especially given the fact that he's been caught doing the dirty again. So, you know, Kayla basically calls him out. And that EDP, everything that he said to her, basically, like, swearing up and down that, like, you know, he was absolutely honest, sincere, true and honest, like, you know, honest, goddess blue heart. He promised his mother, and his mother's dead, if I recall correctly, but, you know, if you remember, like, the actual apology itself, he said a lot of things where he was, like, you know, apologizing about how he fell out with, like, you know, some of his friends, some of his family, those that stuck with him, stuck by his side, that it hurt them, that he wasn't doing well, and that, you know, he was going to try to take the steps necessary to rehabilitate himself and be like a productive member of society. But yeah, that's all complete horseshit because he's been trying to get in with Kayla all this time. Now, here's the crazy part. EDP, he actually threatened Kayla into silence. He was basically saying, you know what? anything about this goes south, girl, you might as well give your soul up onto the Lord. And he's like getting all serious and acting like he's going to do something. Kayla does allege that he's got guns, okay? So she has like no reservation saying that if anybody was going to pull a school shooting or something like that, or go off the handle and go postal, it'd probably be EDP445. But, you know, that's what she claims. Take it with a grain of salt. Anyway, so that comes out. The internet's already in a fucking tizzy right now because it's just like, holy shit, EDP. I thought we already talked about this, man. You were a sick fuck and you were going to get the help that you needed to not be a sick fuck. Nope. Completely out the window. Because Jidion, I'm loosely aware of because a lot of furries are angry at him for basically making fun of the furry fandom, going down to like Furry Week in Atlanta and like, you know, interviewing random furries amongst the crowd. I don't know what they thought was going to happen from that because this guy just seems like he wants to take the piss out of just about anything that he does. That very fact would actually be like, coming out when he actually confronts EDP445 because he doesn't just go alone, okay? He brings a friend, all right? And this friend is actually another YouTuber, okay? Like Skeeter Gene, he just wants to be there. He's kind of like a Chris Hansen impersonator, but a professional Chris Hansen impersonator because, you know, he shows up in a blue suit and he's like questioning EDP445 and fucking Jidion, right? The fucking mad lad. He shows up dressed in a fucking Cupcake costume. And just, it's absolutely glorious because if you look at Jidion, he's got that shitty grin on his face. And EDP445 looks like he just wants to, like, you know, he wants to kill everybody involved. But basically they approach him, they start questioning him. It's just like, yo, bro, can you explain why you were in contact with an underage minor about all this? And EDP445, he's done. He's not willing to entertain this bit. He is just going back into... If you're curious as to where he's going into, that's actually a dialysis clinic, all right? I don't know if you recall, but a couple months ago, he had a little bit of a scare with his kidneys. I guess he's got diabetes. Well, his blood type might as well be pudding, so you probably don't need me to tell you that he's got diabetes, but he was outside of a, dialysis clinic, and he was going back inside, and, he had that kidney problem because of his diabetes. So yeah, like... Jidion, he basically admits, he basically calls up Charlie, right? Moist Critical. I don't know if you know him, but he's a pretty big YouTuber. He actually calls him that night and basically, goes over a little bit of, the ins and outs of, why that all unfolded the way it did. And basically...
This case, he actually talked to a 15-year-old girl.
Like a real one? Not like a decoy?
No, like a real, legit, 15-year-old girl.
A lot of people don't remember this, but he had a history of communicating inappropriately with minors way before that sting operation. So if that's true, that doesn't surprise me in the slightest.
The only reason I dropped it today was because the victim, she went public with everything, and it kind of threw me off because I was like, oh fuck, I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But when I talked to her after she did it, she was like, yeah, the cop said it's all good and stuff. So I was just like, oh, okay. So I dropped it too, but I'm most likely probably going to be going to court with her because...
Oh, what? Wait, what?
Jidion, he was actually working with Kayla Hoskins, and the whole thing about it was supposed to be that when Kayla Hoskins came out, basically Jidion, he had to act fast, all right? He needed to capitalize on the moment, and the worst thing about that is, this was a month, going as far back as a month that he was kind of sitting on that video. The one that, they confront EDP445 outside of a fucking, dialysis clinic, alright? And the only reason he acted so quickly, in releasing that, a little bit of a snippet, a little bit of a blurb for the online space to, enjoy.
This is not a fucking joke, man.
I'm just seldom at a loss for words. 2 years ago you were caught...
Kiss my ass.
In 4K trying to meet a 13-year-old and...
Really?
I'm not talking to you, he's talking to
really,
you.
My nigga, this is bullshit, man, that y'all pulling right now?
Was a simple fact because, Kayla Hoskins spilled the beans about the whole thing. So he needed to act fast because, Jidion, he implies that he's actively working with law enforcement. Something that, Chet Goldstein and Alex Rosen didn't do at the time, which is part of the reason why, EDP445 didn't go to jail. Because as far as the internet is concerned, EDP445 should have wound up in jail years ago. He didn't. Somehow, magically, by the grace of God and all that are involved, he managed to skirt on by, and in spite of the fact that his reputation is absolutely ruined. I don't think things can get much worse from here, because if Jidion releases the entire video and everything that he's been sitting on, it's going to be bad news bears for freaking EDP, alright? And EDP already, his reputation precedes him because he's been having problems holding down employment. You know, employers catch wind that he's been a child predator, so obviously not somebody that you want have working under you if you have to be a manager or something like that, or a business of some sort. And he's also had a lot of problems holding down, like, you know, an apartment or a place to live, because people are less likely to rent to you if you happen to be a bona fide pedophile. So that's obviously caused a lot of grief. The next step is obviously prison, okay? He's going to wind up arrested if, like, you know, law enforcement finally gets off its fat, lazy ass and decides to take this shit seriously, because I can bet you that Kayla Hoskins is not the only minor he reached out to. And the fact that he reached out to her, a 15-year-old girl no less, he's been going after people as young as 13 years of age, okay? And it's just kind of like, yo, at what point do you have to, like, sort of, like, jump on the opportunity to arrest him? Because, you know, obviously, Chet Goldstein and Alex Rosen, they already had their own problems going on. That's part of the reason why that investigation went nowhere. But now that you got Jidion on, like, a big fucking YouTuber, he's mostly known for, like, doing comedic bits, so. But in this case, he just about took the piss right out of EDP445. I mean, this image, right? I can't get over that. I mean, just look at the faces involved. Look at Skeeter Jean. Like, his professional demeanor in this whole thing is just the cherry on the shit sundae here. But no, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of an excuse EDP is going to pull out his fat, ugly ass. I'll say, like, right here. So all of this happened 2021, right? Like, he gets first, like, confronted by Chet and Alex, and it's at that point that he's trying to pass off the half-ass excuse of, well, I was actually out here to pick up a cupcake and then go home. You can tell he's guilty, and he knows he's guilty. He knows that Chet has him dead to rights. But the excuses that he tried to formulate after the fact, he tried to act like it was a setup, that all this was completely contrived, made up bullshit, that there was no minor involved. He actually had, for whatever reason, like an AI-produced voice of Obama, like doing a little bit of an interview with him. And then the story changed yet again, where he was playing the role of a predator for what was supposed to be like an acting bit. Like, he was supposed to be just acting like a little bit of a bit. And, like, you know, the quote-unquote firm, like, you know, Chet Goldstein and Alex Rosen, they were supposed to get back to him and be like, you got the part, or you don't got the part. And then they misconstrued all of that to get content out of him. It was such a wacky, bullshit, nonchalant, like, you know, sort of roundabout way of, like, you know, like, trying to misrepresent the entire situation. And, you know, with most people out there that are being accused of being a pedophile or a zoophile or any of the paraphiles out there that be considered too extreme, that you get arrested for it, even they have better excuses, like, on hand than what EDP tried to offer, because with them, there's always a little bit of a gray area. There are people today that even think that Kira the Wolf is completely innocent of all the allegations levied against him, which either these people are too young to remember, or they're just people that are, like, enjoying a little bit of sour grapes, trying to uphold the good name of, like, their former hero. But with EDP, there is no gray area. There's no ambiguity. There is no leniency here. The entire internet has basically made him the laughingstock, the poster child for being the person that you would think of when anybody says the term pedophile. And I've often said it, I will say it again, as my father has so often done before me. There's good. There's no good. There's no fucking good. EDP is no fucking good, okay? He does not earn my sympathy here. I cannot sympathize with a pedophile. I can't sympathize with a would-be predator, alright? So, if he gets sent to jail, oh well, you played, you pay, you play. That's all I can say. Don't drop the soap. Granted, you already know what happens to pedophiles in prison. If they know you're a pedophile, that's like, you know, dropping a guppy in, like, a Shark Tank. It's not going to end well either way. But kind of like Jared Fogle. Remember Jared Fogle? Remember, like, you know, the whole Subway, like, mascot dude that basically bragged about the fact that he ate at Subway so long that he lost all this weight, and he was trim and slim and relatively good looking, even got a wife. Or was that after he was famous? I can't really recall. But anyway, that's pretty much all I had about EDP445. If I find out anything more, I will be sure to share it with the rest of you all. But till next time, guys, take care and peace. I hope you have a better one. Hey fellas, thanks for watching the video today. I really hope you all enjoyed it. Would you care to hit that like button, subscribe for more? You know I really appreciate that, right? And hey, if you're in the mood for gaming, why don't you check me out on Twitch sometime? Link in the description below. Anyway, till next time guys, take care and peace. I hope you all have a better one.